Questions 1. A university is running an internal web application on AWS that students can access from the university network to check their exam results. The web application runs on Amazon EC2 instances and pulls results from an Amazon DynamoDB table. Auto-scaling is currently configured to add a new web server when CPU greater than 80% for 5 minutes. DynamoDB is configured to increase both read and write capacity units by 5 when utilization is greater than 80%. Exams are released at 9 a.m. each Monday, and 80% of students attempt to access their unique results within the first 30 minutes. Despite auto-scaling enabled, students are complaining of slow response times and errors when they view the site. There are no performance complaints after 9:30 a.m. Which recommendation should a solutions architect make to improve performance in a cost-effective manner? A. Scale out the EC2 instances to ensure that the environment scales up and down based on the highest load. B. Implement Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator to improve database performance and remove the need to scale the read/write units. C. Use a scheduled job to scale out EC2 before 9 a.m. on Monday and to scale down after 9:30 a.m. D. Use Amazon CloudFront to cache web requests and reduce the load on EC2 and DynamoDB. Correct answer, C. Questions 2. A company wants to organize the contents of multiple websites in managed file storage. The company must be able to scale the storage based on demand without needing to provision storage. Multiple servers should be able to access this storage concurrently. Which services should the solutions architect recommend? A. Amazon S3. B. Amazon EBS. C. Amazon EFS. D. AWS Storage Gateway Volume Gateway. Correct answer, C. Question 3. A company has an Amazon RDS database backing its production website. The sales team needs to run queries against the database to track training program effectiveness. Queries against the production database cannot impact performance, and the solution must be easy to maintain. How can these requirements be met? A. Use an Amazon Redshift database. Copy the production database into Redshift and allow the team to query it. B. Use an Amazon RDS read replica of the production database and allow the team to query against it. C. Use multiple Amazon EC2 instances running replicas of the production database, placed behind a load balancer. D. Use an Amazon DynamoDB table to store a copy of the data. Correct answer, B. 4. A media company has deployed a multi-tier architecture on AWS. Web servers are deployed in 2 availability zones using an auto-scaling group with auto-scaling termination policy. The web server's auto-scaling group currently has 15 instances running. Which instance will be terminated first during a scale-in operation? A. The instance with the oldest launch configuration. B. The instance in the availability zone that has most instances. C. The instance closest to the next billing hour. D. The oldest instance in the group. Correct answer, B. Question 5. A company has a legal requirement to store point-in-time copies of its Amazon RDS PostgreSQL database instance in facilities that are at least 200 miles apart. Use of which of the following provides the easiest way to comply with this requirement? A. Cross-region read replica. B. Multiple availability zone snapshot copy. C. Multiple availability zone read replica. D. Cross-region snapshot copy. Correct answer, B. Question 6. A company has asked a solutions architect to ensure that data is protected during data transfer to and from Amazon S3. Use of which service will protect the data in transit? A. AWS KMSP. HTTPS-C. SFTPD. FTPS. Correct answer, B. Question 7. A solutions architect must design a storage solution for incoming billing reports in CSV format. The data does not need to be scanned frequently and is discarded after 30 days. Which service will be most cost-effective in meeting these requirements? A. Import the logs into an RDS MySQL instance. B. Use AWS Data Pipeline to import the logs into a DynamoDB table. C. Write the files to an S3 bucket and use Amazon Athena to query the data. D. Import the logs to an Amazon Redshift cluster. Correct answer, C. Question 8. A data processing application runs on an i3. Large EC2 instance with a single 100 GB EBS GP2 volume. The application stores temporary data in a small database less than 30 GB, located on the EBS root volume. The application is struggling to process the data fast enough, and a solutions architect has determined that the I/O speed of the temporary database is the bottleneck. What is the most cost-efficient way to improve the database response times? A. Enable EBS optimization on the instance and keep the temporary files on the existing volume. B. Put the temporary database on a new 50 GB EBS GP2 volume. C. Move the temporary database onto instance storage. D. Put the temporary database on a new 50 GB EBS IO1 volume with a 3K IOPS provision. Correct answer, D. Question 9. A large media site has multiple applications in Amazon ECS. A solutions architect needs to use content metadata and route traffic to specific services. What is the most efficient method to perform this task? A. Use an AWS Classic Load Balancer with a host-based routing option to route traffic to the correct service. B. Use the AWS CLI to update Amazon Route 53 hosted zone to route traffic as services get updated. C. Use an AWS Application Load Balancer with host-based routing option to route traffic to the correct service. D. Use Amazon CloudFront to manage and route traffic to the correct service. Correct answer, C. Question 10. A workload in an Amazon VPC consists of a single web server launched from a custom AMI. Session state is stored in a database. How should the solutions architect modify this workload to be both highly available and scalable? A. Create a launch configuration with a desired capacity of 2 web servers across multiple availability zones. Create an auto-scaling group with the AMI ID of the web server image. Use Amazon Route 53 latency-based routing to balance traffic across the auto-scaling group. B. Create a launch configuration with the AMI ID of the web server image. Create an auto-scaling group using the newly created launch configuration, and a desired capacity of 2 web servers across multiple regions. Use an application load balancer, ALB, to balance traffic across the auto-scaling group. C. Create a launch configuration with the AMI ID of the web server image. Create an auto-scaling group using the newly created launch configuration, and a desired capacity of 2 web servers across multiple availability zones. Use an ALB to balance traffic across the auto-scaling group. D. Create a launch configuration with the AMI ID of the web server image. Create an auto-scaling group using the newly created launch configuration and a desired capacity of 2 web servers across multiple AWS. Use Route 53 weighted routing to balance traffic across the auto-scaling group. Correct answer, C. Question 11. An application runs in a VPC on Amazon EC2 instances behind an application load balancer. Traffic to the EC2 instances must be limited from the application load balancer. Based on these requirements, the security group configuration should only allow traffic from A. The public IPs of the ALB nodes. B. The IP range of the ALB subnets. C. The security group attached to the ALB. D. The VPC CIDR. Correct answer, C. Question 12. A solutions architect is defining a shared Amazon S3 bucket where corporate applications will save objects. How can the architect ensure that when an application uploads an object to the Amazon S3 bucket, the object is encrypted? A. Set occurs configuration. B. Set a bucket policy to encrypt all Amazon S3 objects. C. Enable default encryption on the bucket. D. Set permissions for users. Correct answer, C. Question 13. A company has an application that uses Amazon CloudFront for content that is hosted on an Amazon S3 bucket. After an unexpected refresh, The user seeing old content. Which steps should the solution architect take to ensure that new content is displayed? A. Perform a cache refresh on the CloudFront distribution that is serving the content. B. Perform an invalidation on the CloudFront distribution that is serving the content. C. Create a new cache behavior path with the updated content. D. Change the TTL value for removing the old objects. Correct answer, B. Question 14. An application that runs on an Amazon EC2 instance must make secure calls to Amazon S3 buckets. Which steps can a solutions architect take to ensure that the calls are made without exposing credentials? A. Generate an access key ID and a secret key, and assign an IAM role with least privilege. B. Create an IAM policy granting access to all services and assign it to the Amazon EC2 instance profile. C. Create an IAM role granting least privilege and assign it to the Amazon EC2 instance profile. D. Generate temporary access keys to grant users temporary access to the Amazon EC2 instance. Correct answer, C. Question 15. A workload in an Amazon VPC consists of an elastic load balancer that distributes incoming requests across a fleet of 6 Amazon EC2 instances. Each instance stores and retrieves data from an Amazon DynamoDB table. Which of the following provisions will ensure that this workload is highly available? A. Provision DynamoDB tables across a minimum of 2 availability zones. B. Provision the EC2 instances evenly across a minimum of 2 OS in 2 regions. C. Provision the EC2 instances evenly across a minimum of 2 OS in a single region. D. Provision the ELB to distribute connections across multiple OS. Correct answer, C. Question 16. A solution architect is designing a 3-tier web application that will allow customers to upload pictures from a mobile application. The application will then generate a thumbnail of the picture and return a message to the user confirming that the image was successfully uploaded. Generation of the thumbnail may take up to 5 seconds. To provide a sub-second response time to the customers uploading the images, the solutions architect wants to separate the web tier from the application tier. Which service would allow the presentation tier to asynchronously dispatch the request to the application tier? A. AWS Steps Functions. B. AWS Lambda. C. Amazon SNS. D. Amazon SQS. Correct answer, C. Question 17. A solutions architect is designing a ride-sharing application. The application needs consistent and single-digit millisecond latency. In addition, the application must integrate with a highly scalable and fully managed database service to track GPS coordinate and user data for all rides. Which database service should the solutions architect use to meet these performance requirements? A. Amazon RDS. B. Amazon Redshift. C. Amazon DynamoDB. D. Amazon Aurora. Correct answer, C. Question 18. A company has a Node.js application running on Amazon EC2 that currently retrieves data for customers from a DynamoDB table. The company is seeing many repeat queries for the same items, and the number of queries is continuing to increase as the application gains popularity. What solution will reduce the number of read capacity units, RCUs, required while minimizing the amount of refactoring that must be done to the application? A. Use Amazon Elastic to provide a caching layer. B. Use a Lambda function to make concurrent request for caching. C. Use Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator, DAX, to provide a caching layer. D. Obtain reserved capacity for Amazon DynamoDB to manage the increased number of queries. Correct answer, A. Question 19. An application is used to process customer orders using an Amazon EC2 instance which saves the orders to an Amazon Aurora database. Occasionally when traffic is high, the workload does not process orders fast enough. What will ensure that the orders are written to the database as quickly as possible? A. Use an ALB and an auto-scaling group to distribute the load across multiple instances. Write orders to an Amazon SQS queue. Use EC2 instances in an auto-scaling group to read from the SQS queue and process orders into the database. B. Increase the instance size of the web server when traffic is high. Write orders as messages to Amazon SNS, ensuring the database is subscribed to the SNS topic. C. Use an ALB and an auto-scaling group to distribute the load across multiple instances. Write orders to an SQS queue. When instances save spare CPU available, read from the SQS and process orders into the database. D. Use an ALB and an auto-scaling group to distribute the load across multiple instances. Write orders as messages to SNS, ensuring that the database is subscribed to the SNS topic. Correct answer, A. Question 20. A retail company has sensors placed in its physical retail stores. The sensors send messages over HTTP when customers interact with in-store product. A solutions architect needs to implement a system for processing those sensor messages. The results must be available for the data analysis team. Which architecture should be used to meet these requirements? A. Implement an Amazon API gateway to serve as the HTTP endpoint. Have the API gateway trigger an AWS Lambda function to process the messages, and save the results to an Amazon DynamoDB table. B. Create an Amazon EC2 instance to serve as the HTTP endpoint and to process the messages. Save the results to Amazon S3 for the data analysis team to download. C. Use Amazon Route 53 to direct incoming sensor messages to a Lambda function to process the message and save the results to a Amazon DynamoDB table. D. Use AWS Direct Connect to connect sensors to DynamoDB so that data can be written directly to a DynamoDB table where it can be accessed by the data analysis team. Correct answer, A. Question 21. A company has an Amazon RDS managed online transaction processing system that has very heavy read and write. The solutions architect notices throughput issues with the system. How can the responsiveness of the primary database be improved? A. Use asynchronous replication for standby to maximize throughput during peak demand. B. Offload select queries that can tolerate stale data to read replica. C. Offload select and update queries to read replica. D. Offload select query that needs the most current data to read replica. Correct answer, B. Question 22. A company is using Amazon S3 as its local repository for weekly analysis reports. One of the company-wide requirements is to secure data at rest using encryption. The company chose Amazon S3 server-side encryption. The company wants to know how the object is decrypted when a GET request is issued. Which of the following answers this question? A. The user needs to place a PUT request to decrypt the object. B. The user needs to decrypt the object using a private key. C. Amazon S3 manage encryption and decryption automatically. D. Amazon S3 provides a server-side key for decrypting the object. Correct answer, D. Question 23. A company has an application that stores sensitive data. The company is required by government regulations to store multiple copies of its data. What would be the most resilient and cost-effective option to meet this requirement? A. Amazon EFS. B. Amazon RDS. C. AWS Storage Gateway. D. Amazon S3. Correct answer, D. Question 24. A solutions architect is building an application that will run for 8 hours, Monday through Friday. This application will also run a weekly batch process every Saturday night that consistently takes 4 hours to complete. Which the most cost-effective compute solution? A. Spot instances. B. Standard reserved instances. C. On-demand instances. D. Scheduled reserved instances. Correct answer, D. Question 25. An organization has a 3-tier architecture. It uses an Apache web server and an application is running on the Docker platform with Amazon RDS on the back end. The organization wants to migrate the application to AWS and does not want to be responsible for deployment, scalability or capacity provisioning of its resources. Which service should be used to meet these requirements? A. AWS OpWorks. B. Amazon EC2 Elastic Container Service. C. AWS Elastic Beanstalk. D. AWS Cloud Formation. Correct answer, C. Question 26. An application is used by thousands of concurrent users. 80% of users access the same content inside the Amazon RDS multi-OS database. How can the overall performance of the database queries be improved? A. Use an Amazon Redshift cluster. B. Use Amazon CloudFront in front of RDS. C. Use Amazon ElastiCache in front of RDS. D. Use Amazon DynamoDB to store the most queried information. Correct answer, C. Question 27. A solutions architect must create a solution whereby user access to multiple Amazon Aurora MySQL databases is securely managed with short-lived connect credentials. How can the solutions architect meet these requirements? A. Create a database user to run the grant statement with a short-lived token. B. Create the user account to use the AWS-provided AWS authentication plugin with IAM. C. Use AWS System Manager to securely save the connection secrets, and use the secrets while connecting. D. Use AWS KMS to securely save the connection secrets and use the secrets while connecting. Correct answer, B. 28. A customer has service based out of Oregon, US and Paris, France. The application is storing data in an S3 bucket located in Oregon and that database updated frequently. The Paris office is experiencing slow response times when retrieving objects. What should a solutions architect do to resolve the slow response times for the Paris office? A. Set up an S3 bucket based in Paris and enable cross-region replication from the Oregon bucket to the Paris bucket. B. Create an application load balancer that load balances data retrieval between the Oregon S3 bucket and a new Paris S3 bucket. C. Create an Amazon CloudFront distribution with the bucket located in Oregon as the origin and set the maximum time to live, TTL, for cache behavior to 0. D. Set up an S3 bucket based in Paris and enable a lifecycle management rule to transition data from the Oregon bucket to the Paris bucket. Correct answer, A. Question 29. An online company wants to conduct real-time sentiment analysis about its products from its social media channels using SQL. Which of the following solutions has the lowest cost and operational burden? A. Set up a streaming data ingestion application on Amazon EC2 and connect it to a Hadoop cluster for data processing. Send the output to Amazon S3 and use Amazon Athena to analyze the data. B. Configure the input stream using Amazon Kinesis data streams. Use Amazon Kinesis Data Analytics to write SQL queries against the stream. C. Configure the input stream using Amazon Kinesis data streams. Use Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose to send data to an Amazon Redshift cluster and then query directly against Amazon Redshift. D. Set up a streaming data ingestion application on Amazon EC2 and send the output to Amazon S3 using Kinesis Data Firehose. Use Athena to analyze the data. Correct answer, D. Question 30. A customer has a legacy application with a large amount of data. The files accessed by the application are approximately 10 gigabytes each, but are rarely accessed. However, when files are accessed, they are retrieved sequentially. The customer is migrating the application to AWS and would like to use Amazon EC2 and Amazon EBS. What is the least expensive EBS volume type for this use case? A. Cold HDD, SC1. B. Provisioned IOPS SSD, IO1. C. General Purpose SSD, GP2. D. Throughput Optimized HDD, SD1. Correct answer, A. Question 31. A solutions architect create an Amazon VPC with 2 public subnets and 2 private subnets. A corporate security mandate requires all Amazon EC2 instances be launched in a private subnet. However, when an EC2 instance running Apache on ports 80 and 443 is launched in the private subnet, no external internet traffic can connect with the server. What actions should be taken to address this situation? A. Ensure the security group attached to the EC2 instance allows HTTP traffic on port 80 and HTTPS traffic on port 443. Ensure external DNS resolution directs to the IP address of the EC2 instance. B. Launch a NAT gateway in the private subnet. Change the default route to the NAT gateway and attach a public EIP to the NAT gateway. Ensure external DNS resolution directs to the EIP address. C. Launch an internet-facing ALB with the EC2 instance as its endpoint. Ensure external DNS resolution directs to the ALB. D. Attach the EC2 instance to an auto-scaling group in the private subnet. Ensure external DNS resolution directs to the auto-scaling group. Correct answer: A. Question 32. A company has a web application with an Apache front-end, a Memcache cache and a PostgreSQL database. The company also has a data warehouse that is accessed with standard SQL tools. The company would like to migrate the architecture to AWS with as little work as possible. Which of the following AWS services should a solutions architect recommend? A. Amazon Elasticache and Amazon Redshift. B. AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM, with AWS Lambda. C. Amazon Elasticache with Redis. D. Amazon DynamoDB and Amazon Elasticache. Correct answer: A. Question 33. A credit card processing application, hosted on an on-premises server, needs to communicate directly with a database hosted on an Amazon EC2 instance running in a private subnet of a VPC. Compliance requirements state that end-to-end communication should be encrypted. Which solution will ensure that this requirement is met? A. Use HTTPS for traffic over VPC peering between the VPC and the on-premise data center. B. Use HTTPS for traffic over the Internet between the on-premises server and the Amazon EC2 instance. C. Use HTTPS for traffic over a VPN connection between the VPC and the on-premises data center. D. Use HTTPS for traffic over gateway VPC endpoints that have been configured for the Amazon EC2 instance. Correct answer: C. Question 34. A company wants to migrate a 3-tier web application to AWS. The company wants to control the placement of the instances and have visibility into underlying sockets and cores for licensing purposes. Which compute model should a solutions architect choose to accomplish this task? A. EC2 reserved instances. B. EC2 spot instances. C. EC2 dedicated hosts. D. EC2 placement groups. Correct answer: C. Question 35. A company has a long-running image processing application that runs on spot instances that will be terminated when interrupted. A highly available workload must be designed to respond to spot instance interruption notices. The solution must include a 2-minute warning when there is not enough capacity. How can these requirements be met? A. Use Amazon CloudWatch events to invoke an AWS Lambda function that can launch on-demand instances. B. Regularly store data from the application on Amazon DynamoDB. Increase the maximum number of instances in the AWS auto-scaling group. C. Manually place a bid for additional spot instances at a higher price in the same AWS region and OS. D. Ensure that the Amazon machine image associated with the application has the latest configurations for the launch configuration. Correct answer: A. Question 36. A solutions architect designed a system based on Amazon Kinesis data streams. After the workflow was put into production, the company noticed it performed slowly and identified Kinesis data streams as the problem. One of the streams has a total of 10 megabits per second throughput. What should the solutions architect recommend to improve performance? A. Use AWS Lambda to pre-process the data and transform the records into a simpler format, such as CSV. B. Run the merge shard command to reduce the number of shards that the consumer can more easily process. C. Change the workflow to use Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose to gain a higher throughput. D. Run the update shard count command to increase the number of shards in the stream. Correct answer: D. Question 37. An application uses an Amazon SQS as a transport mechanism to deliver data to a group of EC2 instances for processing. The application owner wants to add a mechanism to archive the incoming data without modifying application code on the EC2 instances. How can this application be re-architectured to archive the data without modifying the processing instances? A. Trigger a Lambda function by using Amazon CloudWatch events to retrieve messages from the SQS queue and archive to Amazon S3. B. Use an Amazon SNS topic to fan out the data to the SQS queue in addition to a Lambda function that records the data to an S3 bucket. C. Set up an Amazon Kinesis data stream so that multiple instances can receive data. Add a separate EC2 instance that it configured to archive all data it receives. D. Write the data to an S3 bucket and use an SQS queue for S3 event notifications to tell the instances where to retrieve the data. Correct answer, B. Question 38. A solutions architect is designing a web application for document sharing. The users will upload documents that are then made available to other users. There will be tens of thousands of these documents. What is the most cost-effective storage solution? A. Amazon EFS. B. Amazon S3. C. Amazon Glacier. D. Amazon EBS. Correct answer, A. Question 39. A company is looking for a fully managed solution to store its players' state information for a rapidly growing game. The application runs on multiple Amazon EC2 nodes, which can scale according to the incoming traffic. The request can be routed to any of the nodes, therefore the state information must be stored in a centralized database. The player's state information needs to be read with strong consistency and needs conditional updates for any changes. Which service would be most cost-effective and scale seamlessly? A. Amazon S3. B. Amazon DynamoDB. C. Amazon RDS. D. Amazon Redshift. Correct answer, B. Question 40. An application stores data in an Amazon RDS PostgreSQL multi-OS database instance. The ratio of read requests to write requests is about 2:1. Recent increases in traffic are causing very high latency. How can this problem be corrected? A. Create a similar RDS PostgreSQL instance and direct all traffic to it. B. Use the secondary instance of the multiple availability zone for read traffic only. C. Create a read replica and send half of all traffic to it. D. Create a read replica and send all read traffic to it. Correct answer, D.
Question 41. A solutions architect needs to design a centralized logging solution for a group of web applications running on Amazon EC2 instances. The solution requires minimal development effort due to budget constraints. Which of the following should the architect recommend? A. Create a cron-tab job script in each instance to push the logs regularly to Amazon S3. B. Install and configure Amazon CloudWatch Logs agent in the Amazon EC2. C. Enable Amazon CloudWatch events in the AWS Management Console. D. Enable AWS CloudTrail to map all API calls invoked by the application.
Correct answer, B.
Question 42. A company has two different types of reporting needs on their 200 GB data warehouse. Data scientists run a small number of concurrent ad hoc SQL queries that can take several minutes each to run. Display screens throughout the company run many fast SQL queries to populate dashboards. Which design would meet these requirements with the least cost? A. Replicate relevant data between Amazon Redshift and Amazon DynamoDB. Data scientists use Redshift. Dashboards use DynamoDB. Configure auto-replication between Amazon Redshift and Amazon RDS. Data scientists use Redshift. Dashboards use RDS-C. Use Amazon Redshift for both requirements, with separate query queues configured in workload management. D. Use Amazon Redshift for data scientists. Run automated dashboard queries against Redshift and store the results in Amazon Elasticache. Dashboards query Elasticache.
Correct answer, D.
Question 43. A solutions architect needs to deploy an HTTP/HTTPS service on Amazon EC2 instances with support for WebSockets using load balancers. How can the architect meet these requirements? A. Configure a network load balancer. B. Configure an application load balancer. C. Configure a classic load balancer. D. Configure a layer 4 load balancer.
Correct answer, B.
Question 44. A solutions architect is planning a new web application in an Amazon VPC. The customer has specified that the architecture for the new web application must include the capability of sharing session state among a highly available group of web servers. To fulfill this requirement, the solutions architect should A. Deliver session state as messages in the Amazon SQS queue. B. Enable session state on Amazon CloudFront. C. Store session state in Amazon Elasticache. D. Provide session state through Elastic Load Balancing sticky sessions.
Correct answer, B.
Question 45. A web application runs on 10 EC2 instances launched from single customer Amazon Machine Image, AMI. The EC2 instances are behind an Internet Application Load Balancer. Amazon Route 53 provides DNS for the application. How should a solutions architect automate recovery when a web server instance stops replying to requests? A. Launch the instances in an auto-scaling group with an elastic load balancing health check. B. Launch instances in multiple availability zones and set the load balancer to multi-AWS. C. Add CloudWatch alarm actions for each instance to restart if the status check, any, fails. D. Add Route 53 records for each instances with Vary Instance Health Check.
Correct answer, A.
Question 46. A solutions architect is concerned that the current security group rules for a database tier are too permissive and may permit requests that should be restricted. Below are the current security group permissions for the database tier. Protocol, TCP. Port range, 1433, MS SQL. Source, all. Currently, the only identified resource that needs to connect to the database is the application tier consisting of an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances. What changes can be made to this security group that would offer the users least privilege? A. Change the source to -1 to remove source LP addresses previously unseen. B. Change the source to the VPC CIDR block. C. Change the source to the application instances IDs. D. Change the source to the security group ID attached to the application instances.
Correct answer, D.
Question 47. Which requirements must be met in order for a solutions architect to specify that an Amazon EC2 instance should stop rather than terminate its spot instance is interrupted? Select 2. A. The spot instance request type must be one-time. B. The spot instance request type must be persistent. C. The root volume must be an Amazon EBS volume. D. The root volume must be an instance store volume. E. The launch configuration is changed.
Correct answer, B and C.
Question 48. A solutions architect needs to deploy a Node.js-based web application that is highly available and scales automatically. The marketing team needs to roll back on application releases quickly, and they need to have an operational dashboard. The marketing team does not want to manage deployment of OS patches to the Linux servers. Use of which service will satisfy these requirements? A. Amazon EC2. B. Amazon API Gateway. C. AWS Elastic Beanstalk. D. Amazon EC2 Container Service.
Correct answer, C.
Question 49. A company is creating an application that allows users to share uploaded files with other users. They have configured an S3 bucket, tier the files are uploaded and stored to grant access to only an Amazon CloudFront distribution. The company is now asking the solutions architect to determine a strategy to secure the static files so that they are shared only with the users that the file owner has allowed. What should the solutions architect recommend to secure the static files and prevent unauthorized access? A. Use the application to create temporary access and secret keys by using AWS STS assume role with the policy parameter. B. Use the application instances to create a CloudFront signed URL. C. Use the application instances to create an S3 presigned URL. D. Create a CloudFront origin access identity, OAI, for each user, and set the bucket policy for each UA based on user request.
Correct answer, B.
Question 50. A solutions architect has been asked to deliver video content stored on Amazon S3 to specific users from Amazon CloudFront while restricting access by unauthorized users. How can the architect implement a solution to meet these requirements? A. Configure CloudFront to use signed URLs to access Amazon S3. B. Store the videos as private objects in Amazon S3 and let CloudFront serve the objects by using only Origin Access Identity, OAI. C. Use Amazon S3 static website as the origin of CloudFront, and configure CloudFront to deliver the videos by generating a signed URL for users. D. Use a way for CloudFront to access private S3 objects and select the Restrict Viewer Access option in CloudFront cache behavior to use signed URLs.
Correct answer, D.
Question 51. What conditions could cause a multi-OS Amazon RDS failover to occur? Select 2. A. The RDS instance is stopped manually. B. A replica of the RDS instance is created in a different region. C. An availability zone becomes unavailable. D. Another master user is created. E. A failure of the primary database instance.
Correct answer, C and E.
Question 52. A company has an application that accesses a MySQL database installed on a single EC2 instance. The instance recently experienced a fault and brought down the entire application for several hours. The company wants to address the issue but is concerned about spending too much time modifying application code or managing the legacy application. What should the solutions architect recommend to remove this single point of failure with the fewest changes to the application code and the least amount of administrative effort? A. Implement a caching layer by using Amazon Elasticache to store query results of frequently accessed information. B. Deploy a second EC2 instance with KILC installed, and configure replication between this instance and the existing MySQL instance. C. Migrate the database to an RDS MySQL multi-OS DB instance, and point the application servers to the new RDS instance. D. Create a DynamoDB table to use as a cache layer, and update the application to query data from Amazon DynamoDB before querying MySQL.
Correct answer, A.
Question 53. A solutions architect needs to design an Amazon RDS for MySQL solution whereby users must be authenticated using only SSL connections. How should the solutions architect design the solution? A. Only allow SSL connections through a VPC security group. B. Use grant and alter commands with the require SSL option for the user. C. Connect with a MySQL client that references the public key. D. Ensure that the SSL parameters are set in the parameter group at launch.
Correct answer, B.
Question 54. A company's policy requires that all data stored in Amazon S3 is encrypted. The company wants to use the option with the least overhead and does not want to manage any encryption keys. Which of the following options will meet the company's requirements? A. AWS Cloud HSM. B. AWS Trusted Advisor. C. Server-side encryption, SSE S3. D. Server-side encryption, SSE KMS.
Correct answer, D.
Question 55. A team is launching a marketing campaign and the peak database read activity in Amazon Aurora for MySQL is expected to increase. A solutions architect decides to add 2 read replicas to the cluster. How should the solutions architect ensure that the connections for read activities are load balanced? A. Reader endpoint for Amazon Aurora. B. Cluster endpoint for Amazon Aurora. C. Primary DB instance endpoint for Amazon Aurora. D. Replica DB instances endpoint for Aurora.
Correct answer, B.
Question 56. A team is building an application that must persist and index JSON files in a highly available data store. Latency of data access must remain consistent despite very high application traffic. Which service should the team choose? A. Amazon EFS. B. Amazon Redshift. C. DynamoDB. D. AWS CloudFormation.
Correct answer, C.
Question 57. A company is migrating an on-premise 10 TB MySQL database to AWS. The company expects the database to quadruple in size and the business requirement is that replica lag must be kept under 100 milliseconds. Which Amazon RDS engine meet these requirements? A. MySQL. B. Microsoft SQL Server. C. Oracle. D. Amazon Aurora.
Correct answer, D.
Question 58. A solutions architect is designing a highly scalable system to track records. Record must remain available for immediate download for 3 months and then the records must be deleted. What is the most appropriate decision for this use case? A. Store the files on Amazon EBS, and create a lifecycle policy to remove the files after 3 months. B. Store the files in Amazon S3 and create a lifecycle policy to remove the files after 3 months. C. Store the files in Amazon Glacier and create a lifecycle policy to remove the files after 3 months. D. Store the files on Amazon EFS and create a lifecycle policy to remove the files after 3 months.
Correct answer, B.
Question 59. A company is implementing a data lake solution on Amazon S3. Its security policy mandates that the data stored in Amazon S3 should be encrypted at rest. Which options can achieve this? Select 2. A. Use S3 server-side encryption with an Amazon EC2 key pair. B. Use S3 server-side encryption with customer-provided keys, SSEC. C. Use S3 bucket policies to restrict access to the data at rest. D. Use client-side encryption before ingesting the data to Amazon S3 using encryption keys. E. Use SSL to encrypt the data while in transit to Amazon S3.
Correct answer, B and D.
Question 60. A photo-sharing website running on AWS allows users to generate thumbnail images of photos stored in Amazon S3. An Amazon DynamoDB table maintains the locations of photos, and thumbnails are easily recreated from the originals if they are accidentally deleted. How should the thumbnail images be stored to ensure the lowest cost? A. Amazon S3 Standard and Frequent Access, S3 Standard YA, with cross-region replication. B. Amazon S3. C. Amazon Glacier. D. Amazon S3 with cross-region replication.
Correct answer, B. Question 61. A solutions architect is creating an application running in an Amazon VPC that needs to access AWS Systems Manager Parameter Store. Network security rules prohibit any route table entry with a 0.0.0.00 destination. What infrastructure addition will allow access to the AWS service while meeting the requirements? A. VPC peering. B. NAT instance. C. NAT gateway. D. AWS private link. Correct answer, D. 62. An application generates audit logs of operational activities. Compliance requirements mandate that the application retain the logs for 5 years. How can these requirements be met? A. Save the logs in an Amazon S3 bucket and enable multi-factor authentication delete, MFA delete, on the bucket. B. Save the logs in an Amazon EFS volume and use Network File System version 4, NFSv4, locking with the volume. C. Save the logs in an Amazon Glacier Vault and use the Vault Lock feature. D. Save the logs in an Amazon EBS volume and take monthly snapshots. Correct answer, C. Question 63. A company creates business-critical 3D images every night. The images are batch processed every Friday and require an uninterrupted 48 hours to complete. What is the most cost-effective Amazon EC2 pricing model for this scenario? A. On-demand instances. B. Scheduled reserved instances. C. Reserved instances. D. Spot instances. Correct answer, B. Question 64. A company has thousands of files stored in an Amazon S3 bucket that has a well-defined access pattern. The files are accessed by an application multiple times a day for the first 30 days. Files are rarely accessed within the next 90 days. After that, the files are never accessed again. During the first 120 days, accessing these files should never take more than a few seconds. Which lifecycle policy should be used for the S3 objects to minimize costs based on the access pattern? A. Use Amazon S3 Standard and Frequent Access, S3 Standard YA, storage for the first 30 days. Then move the files to the Glacier storage class for the next 90 days. Allow the data to expire after that. B. Use Amazon S3 Standard storage for the first 30 days. Then move the files to Amazon S3 Standard and Frequent Access, S3 Standard YA, for the next 90 days. Allow the data to expire after that. C. Use Amazon S3 standard storage for first 30 days. Then move the files to the Glacier storage class for the next 90 days. Allow the data to expire after that. D. Use Amazon S3 standard and frequent access, S3 standard YA, for the first 30 days. After that, move the data to the Glacier storage class, where IS will be deleted automatically. Correct answer, B. Question 65. During a review of business applications, a solutions architect identifies a critical application with a relational database that was built by a business user and is running on the user's desktop. To reduce the risk of a business interruption, the solutions architect wants to migrate the application to a highly available, multi-tiered solution in AWS. What should the solutions architect do to accomplish this with the least amount of disruption to the business? A. Create an import package of the application code for upload to AWS Lambda, and include a function to create another Lambda function to migrate data into an Amazon RDS database. B. Create an image of the user's desktop, migrate it to Amazon EC2 using VM import, and place the EC2 instance in an auto-scaling group. C. Prestige new Amazon EC2 instances running the application code on AWS behind an application load balancer and an Amazon RDS multi-OS DB instance. D. Use AWS DMs to migrate the backend database to an Amazon RDS multi-OS DB instance. Migrate the application code to AWS Elastic Beanstalk. Correct answer, D. Question 66. A 3-tier application is being created to host small news articles. The application is expected to serve millions of users. When breaking news occurs, the site must handle very large spikes in traffic without significantly impacting database performance. Which design meets these requirements while minimizing costs? A. Use auto-scaling groups to increase the number of Amazon EC2 instances delivering the web. B. Use auto-scaling groups to increase the size of the Amazon RDS instances delivering the database. C. Use Amazon DynamoDB strongly consistent reads to adjust for the increase in traffic. D. Use Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator, DAX, to cache read operations to the database. Correct answer, A. Question 67. An application running in a private subnet accesses an Amazon DynamoDB table. There is a security requirement that the data never leave the AWS network. How should this requirement be met? A. Configure a network ACL on DynamoDB to limit traffic to the private subnet. B. Enable DynamoDB encryption at rest using an AWS KMS key. C. Add a NAT gateway and configure the route table on the private subnet. D. Create a VPC endpoint for DynamoDB and configure the endpoint policy. Correct answer, D. Question 68. A client reports that they want to see an audit log of any changes made to AWS resources in their account. What can the client do to achieve this? A. Set up Amazon CloudWatch monitors on services they own. B. Enable AWS CloudTrail logs to be delivered to an Amazon S3 bucket. C. Use Amazon CloudWatch events to parse logs. D. Use AWS OpsWorks to manage their resources. Correct answer, B. Question 69. A company is storing data in an Amazon DynamoDB table and needs to take daily backups and retain them for 6 months. How should the solutions architect meet these requirements without impacting the production workload? A. Use DynamoDB replication and restore the table from the replica. B. Use AWS Data Pipeline and create a scheduled job to back up the DynamoDB table daily. C. Use Amazon CloudWatch events to trigger an AWS Lambda function that makes an on-demand backup of the table. D. Use AWS Batch to create a scheduled backup with the default template, then back up to Amazon S3 daily. Correct answer, C. Question 70. An organization uses Amazon S3 to store video content served via its website. It only has rights to deliver this content to users within its own country and needs to restrict access. How can the organization ensure that these files are only accessible from within its country? A. Use a custom Amazon S3 bucket policy to allow access only to users inside the organization's country. B. Use Amazon CloudFront and geo-restriction to allow access only to users inside the organization's country. C. Use an Amazon S3 bucket ACL to allow access only to users inside the organization's country. D. Use file-based ACL permissions on each video file to allow access only to users inside the organization's country. Correct answer, B. Question 71. A solutions architect is designing a multi-tier application consisting of an application load balancer, an Amazon RDS database instance, and an auto-scaling group on Amazon EC2 instances. Each tier is in a separate subnet. There are some EC2 instances in the subnet that belong to another application. The RDS database instance should accept traffic only from the EC2 instances in the auto-scaling group. What should be done to meet these requirements? A. Configure the inbound network ACLs on the database subnet to accept traffic from the IP addresses of the EC2 instances only. B. Configure the inbound rules on the security group associated with the RDS database instance. Set the source to the security group associated with instances in the auto-scaling group. C. Configure the outbound rules on the security group associated with the auto-scaling group. Set the destination to the security group associated with the RDS database instance. D. Configure the inbound network ACLs on the database subnet to accept traffic only from the CIDR range of the subnet used by the auto-scaling group. Correct answer, B. Question 72. A solutions architect is designing an application in AWS. The architect must not expose the application or database tier over the internet for security reasons. The application must be low cost and have a scalable front end. The databases and application tier must have only one-way internet access to download software and patch updates. Which solution helps to meet these requirements? A. Use a NAT gateway as the front end for the application tier and to enable the private resources to have internet access. B. Use an Amazon EC2-based proxy server as the front end for the application tier, and a NAT gateway to allow internet access for private resources. C. Use an ELB classic load balancer as the front end for the application tier, and an Amazon EC2 proxy server to allow internet access for private resources. D. Use an ELB classic load balancer as the front end for the application tier, and a NAT gateway to allow internet access for private resources. Correct answer, D. Question 73. A solutions architect is designing a 3-tier web application that will allow customers to upload pictures from a mobile application. The application will then generate a thumbnail of the picture and return a message to the user confirming that the image was successfully uploaded. Generation of the thumbnail may take up to 5 seconds. To provide a sub-second response time to the customers uploading the images, the solutions architect wants to separate the web tier from the application tier. Which service would allow the presentation tier to asynchronously dispatch the request to the application tier? A. AWS Step Functions. B. AWS Lambda. C. Amazon SNS. D. Amazon SQS. Correct answer, D. Question 74. A solutions architect is designing an application that requires having 6 Amazon EC2 instances running at all times. The application will be deployed in the SE East 1 region, which has 3 availability zones, SE East 1A, SE East 1B, and SE East 1C. Which action will provide 100% fault tolerance and the lowest cost in the event that one availability zone in the region becomes unavailable? A. Deploy 6 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1A, 6 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1B, and 6 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1C. B. Deploy 6 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1A, 4 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1B, and 2 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1C. C. Deploy 3 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1A, 3 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1B, and 3 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1C. D. Deploy 2 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1A, 2 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1B, and 2 Amazon EC2 instances in SE East 1C. Correct answer, C. Question 75. A solutions architect designed a system based on Amazon Kinesis data streams. After the workflow was put into production, the company noticed it performed slowly and identified Kinesis data streams as the problem. One of the streams has a total of 10 megabits per second throughput. What should the solutions architect recommend to improve performance? A. Use AWS Lambda to pre-process the data and transform the records into a simpler format, such as CSV. B. Run the merge shard command to reduce the number of shards that the consumer can more easily process. C. Change the workflow to use Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose to gain a higher throughput. D. Run the update shard count command to increase the number of shards in the stream. Correct answer, D. Question 76. A solutions architect is considering possible options for improving the security of the data on an Amazon EBS volume attached to an Amazon EC2 instance. Which solution will improve the security of the data? A. Use AWS KMS to encrypt the EBS volume. B. Create an IAM policy that restricts read and write access to the volume. C. Migrate the sensitive data to an instance store volume. D. Use Amazon single sign-on to control login access to the EC2 instance. Correct answer, A. Question 77. A solutions architect must design a solution that encrypts data in Amazon S3. Corporate policy mandates encryption keys be generated and managed on premises. Which solution should the architect use to meet the security requirements? A. AWS Cloud HSM. B. SSE KMS, server-side encryption with AWS KMS managed keys. C. SSE S3, server-side encryption with Amazon managed master key. D. SSEC, server-side encryption with customer-provided encryption keys. Correct answer, D. Question 78. A company is storing application data in Amazon S3 buckets across multiple AWS regions. Company policy requires that encryption keys be generated at the company headquarters, but the encryption keys may be stored in AWS after generation. The solutions architect plans to configure cross-region replication. Which solution will encrypt the data hole requiring the least amount of operational overhead? A. Configure the applications to write to an S3 bucket using client-side encryption. B. Configure S3 buckets to encrypt using ICE 256. C. Configure S3 object encryption using AWS CLI with server-side encryption with AWS KMS managed keys, SSE KMS. D. Configure S3 buckets to use server-side encryption with AWS KMS managed keys, SSE KMS, with imported key material in both regions. Correct answer, D. Question 79. A customer has an application that is used by enterprise customers outside of AWS. Some of these customers use legacy firewalls that cannot whitelist by DNS name, but whitelist based only on IP address. The application is currently deployed in 2 availability zones, with 1 EC2 instance in each that has elastic IP addresses. The customer wants to whitelist only 2 IP addresses, but the 2 existing EC2 instances cannot sustain the amount of traffic. What can a solutions architect do to support the customer and allow for more capacity? Choose 2. A. Create a network load balancer with an interface in each subnet, and assign a static IP address to each subnet. B. Create additional EC2 instances and put them on standby. Remap an elastic IP address to a standby instance in the event of a failure. C. Use Amazon Route 53 with a weighted, round-robin routing policy across the elastic IP addresses to resolve one at a time. D. Add additional EC2 instances with elastic IP addresses, and register them with Amazon Route 53. E. Switch the 2 existing EC2 instances for an auto-scaling group, and register them with the network load balancer. Correct answer, A and E. Question 80. A company is launching a dynamic website, and the operations team expects up to 10 times the traffic on the launch date. This website is hosted on Amazon EC2 instances and traffic is distributed by Amazon Route 53. A solutions architect must ensure that there is enough back-end capacity to meet user demands. The operations team wants to scale down as quickly as possible after the launch. What is the most cost-effective and fault-tolerant solution that will meet the company's customer demands? Choose 2. A. Set up an application load balancer to distribute traffic to multiple EC2 instances. B. Set up an auto-scaling group across multiple availability zones for the website, and create scale-out and scale-in policies. C. Create an Amazon CloudWatch alarm to send an email through Amazon SNS when EC2 instances experience higher loads. D. Create an AWS Lambda function to monitor website load time, run it every 5 minutes, and use the AWS SDK to create a new instance if website load time is longer than 2 seconds. E. Use Amazon CloudFront to cache the website content during launch and set a TTL for cached content to expire after the launch date. Correct answer, A and E.